The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. Albert Einstein, they tell you to chase the light, to be relentlessly positive. That darkness is a weakness, a flaw to be purged. They are wrong. True mastery isn't forged in the sterile glow of optimism, but in the crucible of shadows. It's understanding the darkness within yourself and the darkness in others that grants you genuine power. We do not shy away from the uncomfortable truths, we dissect them. We embrace the parts of ourselves that others try to suppress. For it is there, in the depths, that true strength resides. The path to competence isn't paved with affirmations, but with a clear-eyed assessment of reality, unburdened by illusions. While the herd bleats about sunshine and rainbows, we are mapping the treacherous currents below the surface. We are learning to navigate the storm, not waiting for it to pass. Their platitudes are a shield against a world they refuse to understand. Our realism is a weapon, forged in the heart of the abyss. The world doesn't reward blind faith, it rewards calculated action. And calculated action requires seeing the world as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. This is not about embracing evil, it's about understanding the full spectrum of human behavior, both light and dark, to better protect yourself and achieve your aims. The naive are lambs to the slaughter. The informed, the observant, they are the architects of their own destiny. The pursuit of mastery demands an unflinching gaze into the hidden corners of the human psyche. To understand motivation, you must dissect not only altruism, but also envy, resentment, and the insatiable hunger for power. To grasp the levers of influence, you must acknowledge the potent force of manipulation, the subtle art of deception, and the primal instincts that drive human behavior beneath the veneer of civility. The world operates on incentives, both spoken and unspoken, and these incentives often stem from desires that polite society deems unsavory. Ignoring these truths is not virtuous. It is a strategic disadvantage. It leaves you vulnerable to those who understand and exploit these darker aspects of human nature. True competence lies in recognizing the full spectrum of human drives, the noble and the base, and using this knowledge to navigate the complexities of social interaction. It is about understanding the silent language of power, the unspoken contracts that govern relationships, and the subtle cues that reveal hidden agendas. This is not an endorsement of malice, but a call for clear-eyed awareness. To master any domain, from business to personal relationships, requires a deep understanding of the forces at play, the hidden currents that shape outcomes. Delve into the shadows of your own mind. Confront the aspects of yourself that you instinctively reject, the insecurities, the fears, the desires that you keep hidden from the world. These suppressed emotions, if left unexamined, can become liabilities, vulnerabilities that others can exploit. By acknowledging and understanding your own darkness, you neutralize its power over you. You become more self-aware, more resilient, and less susceptible to manipulation. This is not about indulging in self-pity or wallowing in negativity. It's about cultivating a ruthless honesty with yourself, a willingness to confront your flaws and limitations without flinching. Only by understanding your own weaknesses can you begin to transform them into strengths. Only by acknowledging your own capacity for darkness can you truly cultivate empathy and understanding for others. The person who denies their own shadow is doomed to be controlled by it. The person who embraces it, who integrates it into their understanding of self, becomes a force to be reckoned with. Consider the masters of history, the individuals who have shaped empires, revolutionized industries, and left an indelible mark on the world. They were not necessarily saints or paragons of virtue. Many possessed a ruthless ambition, a willingness to sacrifice others for their own gain, and a deep understanding of the darker aspects of human nature. They were not blinded by naive ideals. They saw the world as it was, a complex and often brutal landscape of competing interests. They understood the power of propaganda, the art of manipulation, and the importance of cultivating fear and respect. This is not to glorify their actions, but to analyze the factors that contributed to their success. Ignoring the darker aspects of their personalities and strategies is to ignore a crucial element of their power. It is to sanitize history, to present a distorted and incomplete picture of reality. True understanding requires a willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge the flaws and contradictions that exist within even the most influential figures. Mastery demands a rejection of simplistic narratives. The world is not a dichotomy of good and evil, light and dark. It is a complex tapestry of interwoven motivations, conflicting desires, and unpredictable events. To navigate this complexity, you must cultivate a nuanced understanding of human behavior, a willingness to see beyond the surface, and an ability to anticipate the consequences of your actions. This requires a constant process of learning, observing, and adapting. It requires a willingness to question your own assumptions, to challenge your own beliefs, and to embrace the uncertainty that comes with genuine understanding. The path to mastery is not a straight line. It is a winding road filled with obstacles and setbacks. But it is through these challenges that we grow, that we learn, and that we ultimately achieve our full potential. The world is a chess board, and the pieces are human beings. To play the game effectively, you must understand the motivations of each piece, the rules that govern their movement, and the strategies that can lead to victory. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology, a keen awareness of power dynamics, and a willingness to make difficult choices. The game is not always fair, and the stakes are often high. But by mastering the shadows, you can increase your chances of success. Consider the historical ascent of Joseph P. Kennedy, a figure who exemplified the ruthless pursuit of power and influence. His strategies were not always laudable, his methods often skirting ethical boundaries, yet his impact on American politics and business is undeniable. He understood the inherent darkness within the human psyche, the allure of wealth, the hunger for recognition, and he exploited these desires with calculated precision. Kennedy's early career was marked by shrewd financial maneuvers, a willingness to take risks that others deemed reckless. He navigated the treacherous waters of the stock market with an almost preternatural understanding of its fluctuations, accumulating a fortune through means that were, at times, morally ambiguous. He recognized the power of insider information, the advantage gained by knowing what others did not, and he used this knowledge to his benefit, regardless of the potential consequences for those less informed. His involvement in the distribution of alcohol during Prohibition further illustrates his willingness to operate in the shadows, to profit from activities that were technically illegal but widely tolerated. He saw an opportunity, a gap in the market created by societal hypocrisy, and he seized it without hesitation, amassing further wealth and expanding his network of influence. But Kennedy's ambitions extended beyond the realm of finance. He recognized the potential of politics, the power to shape public opinion, to influence policy, and to secure his family's legacy. He invested heavily in political campaigns, cultivating relationships with key figures in the Democratic Party, and maneuvering his sons into positions of power. His influence was often exerted behind the scenes, through backroom deals and strategic alliances. He understood that true power often resided not in holding office, but in controlling those who did. Kennedy's understanding of human weakness was a key element of his success. He recognized the vulnerability of individuals to flattery, to promises of reward, and to threats of punishment. He used these tactics to manipulate others, to secure their loyalty, and to achieve his own objectives. He was a master of psychological warfare, able to exploit the fears and insecurities of his opponents, to undermine their confidence, and to render them ineffective. He also understood the importance of appearances, the need to project an image of strength, competence, and unwavering resolve. He cultivated a persona of ruthless efficiency, a man who could get things done, regardless of the obstacles. This image, while not always entirely accurate, served to intimidate his rivals and to attract followers. However, Kennedy's methods were not without their consequences. He made enemies along the way, individuals who resented his power, his wealth, and his willingness to bend the rules. He faced accusations of corruption, of unethical behavior, and of exploiting his position for personal gain. These accusations, while often difficult to prove, cast a shadow over his legacy and raised questions about the true cost of his success. Joseph Kennedy's life serves as a stark reminder that the pursuit of power often requires a willingness to compromise one's principles, to navigate moral gray areas, and to confront the darker aspects of human nature. His story is not an endorsement of these methods, but rather a cautionary tale, an illustration of the potential consequences of unchecked ambition. To truly master the shadows, one must understand the price of such mastery, the potential for corruption, and the importance of maintaining a sense of perspective, even in the face of overwhelming power. The temptation to succumb to the darkness is ever present, and only through constant vigilance and self-reflection can one hope to navigate the shadows without losing one's way. This necessitates a deep understanding of oneself, an awareness of one's own weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and a commitment to ethical conduct, even when it is difficult or unpopular. Kennedy's example illustrates the dangers of unchecked ambition, the potential for power to corrupt, and the importance of maintaining a strong moral compass. His story is a testament to the fact that true mastery requires not only skill and cunning, but also wisdom and restraint. The path to mastery, obscured by shadows, is littered with the failures of those who underestimated its perils. They stumble not for lack of talent, but for lack of vision, blinded by immediate gratification and shallow ambition. Consider the artist who prioritizes fame over craft, churning out derivative works to appease the masses, sacrificing their unique voice for fleeting popularity. Their work becomes a hollow imitation, a pale reflection of true artistry, destined to fade into obscurity. They have traded enduring significance for momentary validation, a fatal error in the pursuit of lasting mastery. The athlete who relies solely on brute force, neglecting strategy and adaptability, will inevitably be outmaneuvered by a more cunning opponent. Their physical prowess becomes a limitation, a cage that confines their potential, preventing them from reaching the pinnacle of their sport. They are strong, but not wise, powerful, but not adaptable, and their strength ultimately becomes their undoing. The entrepreneur who cuts corners, sacrificing quality for profit, will eventually face the wrath of a discerning market. Their reputation will crumble, their brand tarnished, and their business will collapse under the weight of its own dishonesty. They prioritized short-term gains over long-term sustainability, a reckless gamble that inevitably leads to ruin. These are not isolated incidents, but recurring patterns, the predictable consequences of flawed approaches to mastery. The common thread is a failure to understand the deeper principles at play, the subtle forces that govern success and failure. The weak focus on surface appearances, on external validation, on immediate rewards. They lack the discipline to endure the long, arduous journey, the patience to cultivate genuine skill, the wisdom to navigate the ethical complexities of their chosen field. The trap lies in believing that mastery can be achieved through shortcuts, through manipulation, through sheer force of will. It is a seductive illusion, fueled by ego and impatience. Those who fall prey to this illusion will find themselves trapped in a cycle of frustration and disappointment, forever chasing a phantom of success. They may achieve fleeting moments of recognition, but they will never attain true mastery, the deep, enduring satisfaction that comes from genuine accomplishment. True mastery requires a different approach, a willingness to embrace the shadows, to confront one's own weaknesses, to learn from one's mistakes. It demands a relentless pursuit of knowledge, a dedication to continuous improvement, and a commitment to ethical conduct, even when it is difficult or unpopular. It is a path that requires courage, resilience, and a profound understanding of oneself. The weak seek to avoid the shadows, to remain in the comfortable light of mediocrity. They fear the unknown, the uncertain, the challenging. They cling to their illusions, their excuses, their self-deceptions. They are afraid to confront their own limitations, to acknowledge their own failures. and in their fear, they condemn themselves to a life of unfulfilled potential. They become cautionary tales, examples of what not to do, reminders of the dangers of complacency and self-deception. Their failures serve as lessons for those who are willing to learn, illuminating the path to true mastery, a path that leads through the shadows, but ultimately emerges into the light of genuine accomplishment. The shadows are not to be feared, but to be understood, navigated, and ultimately mastered. They are the crucible in which true mastery is forged, the testing ground where weakness is exposed and strength is revealed. The Machiavellian strategy recognizes that true mastery is not achieved through naive optimism or blind faith, but through a clear-eyed assessment of reality, including its darkest aspects. It demands a willingness to manipulate situations, to exploit weaknesses, and to outmaneuver opponents, all in the service of a greater goal. This is not to advocate for amorality, but rather for a pragmatic understanding of power and influence. A master strategist does not shy away from difficult choices, but instead embraces them with a cold, calculated resolve. They understand that the world is not a fair or just place, and that those who play by the rules are often at a disadvantage. Therefore, they are willing to bend the rules, to break them if necessary, in order to achieve their objectives. This requires a certain level of ruthlessness, a willingness to prioritize the end over the means. However, it also requires a deep understanding of human nature, an ability to anticipate the reactions of others, and to exploit their vulnerabilities. The Machiavellian approach is not about being evil, but about being effective. It is about understanding the dynamics of power and using them to one's advantage. A true master strategist is not motivated by personal gain or ego, but by a desire to achieve something greater than themselves. They are willing to make sacrifices, to endure hardships, and to risk everything in pursuit of their vision. They understand that true mastery is not about individual glory, but about leaving a lasting legacy. This requires a long-term perspective, a willingness to invest in the future, and a commitment to building something that will endure. The Machiavellian strategy is not for the faint of heart, but for those who are willing to embrace the shadows, to confront the harsh realities of the world, and to take the necessary steps to achieve their goals. It is a path that requires courage, intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. It is a path that leads to true mastery, a mastery that is not based on illusion or delusion, but on a deep understanding of the world and one's place in it. The shadows, in this context, represent the uncomfortable truths, the unspoken realities, and the hidden agendas that drive human behavior. Ignoring these shadows is to operate in a state of blissful ignorance, a dangerous position for anyone seeking mastery. A true master understands that every action, every interaction is influenced by these hidden forces, and they learn to navigate them with skill and precision. They study the motivations of others, their fears and desires, their strengths and weaknesses. They learn to anticipate their moves, to predict their reactions, and to exploit their vulnerabilities. This requires a level of detachment, an ability to observe human behavior without judgment or emotion. A true master is like a scientist, studying the complexities of the human condition with a cold, analytical eye. They understand that emotions can cloud judgment, that sentimentality can lead to mistakes, and that objectivity is essential for clear thinking. Therefore, they cultivate a state of emotional neutrality, a calm and centered state of mind that allows them to see things as they truly are. This does not mean that they are devoid of empathy or compassion, but rather that they are able to control their emotions, to prevent them from influencing their decisions. They understand that emotions are a tool to be used strategically, not to be ruled by. They can feign anger, sorrow, or joy, depending on the situation, but they never lose control of their own inner state. This level of self-mastery is essential for anyone seeking to navigate the shadows and achieve true mastery. It requires a deep understanding of oneself, one's own strengths and weaknesses, one's own fears and desires. It requires a willingness to confront one's own inner demons, to acknowledge one's own flaws, and to work tirelessly to overcome them. The shadows are not just external forces, but also internal ones, the dark corners of the human psyche that can sabotage even the most ambitious of endeavors. A true master understands this, and they dedicate themselves to the lifelong process of self-improvement. They are constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly striving to become a better version of themselves. They understand that mastery is not a destination, but a journey, a continuous process of learning, adapting, and evolving. They embrace the challenges, the setbacks, and the failures that inevitably come their way, viewing them as opportunities for growth and learning. They understand that every mistake is a lesson, every failure a stepping stone on the path to mastery. They never give up, never lose hope, never stop striving to achieve their goals. They are relentless, persistent, and unwavering in their pursuit of excellence. This requires a deep sense of purpose, a clear understanding of one's values, and an unwavering commitment to one's goals. A true master is not driven by external rewards or recognition, but by an internal sense of purpose, a deep-seated desire to make a difference in the world. They are not motivated by ego or ambition, but by a genuine desire to contribute to something greater than themselves. They understand that true mastery is not about personal gain, but about serving others, about using one's skills and talents to make the world a better place. This requires a level of humility, a willingness to put others first, and a commitment to ethical conduct. A true master understands that power comes with responsibility, and that they must use their power wisely and ethically. They are not driven by greed or self-interest, but by a sense of duty and obligation to others. They understand that their actions have consequences, and that they must always strive to do what is right, even when it is difficult or unpopular. This requires a strong moral compass, a clear understanding of right and wrong, and an unwavering commitment to one's values. The Machiavellian strategy, therefore, is not about being a ruthless manipulator, but about being a responsible leader, an ethical strategist, and a true master of one's craft. It is about understanding the shadows, navigating the complexities of the human condition, and using one's power for good. It is a path that requires courage, intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. It is a path that leads to true mastery, a mastery that is not based on illusion or delusion, but on a deep understanding of the world and one's place in it. Consider the rise and fall of empires, those sprawling testaments to human ambition and the brutal calculus of power. Rome, in its ascendancy, mastered not only the art of war, but also the art of incorporating conquered peoples, offering citizenship, infrastructure, and a shared identity, thereby transforming potential enemies into loyal subjects. This understanding of human nature, this subtle manipulation of desires and fears, allowed them to build an empire that spanned continents and endured for centuries. But even Rome, with all its strategic brilliance, eventually succumbed to the shadows within, to the corruption of its leadership, the decay of its institutions, and the erosion of its moral foundations. The empire, blinded by its own power, forgot the principles that had made it great, and so it crumbled. The lessons are stark. Military might alone is never enough. Lasting mastery demands a deeper understanding of the human condition, a recognition of the subtle forces that shape individual and collective behavior. A leader who relies solely on force risks alienating his followers, creating resentment, and ultimately undermining his own authority. True power, on the other hand, stems from the ability to inspire loyalty, to cultivate trust, and to create a shared sense of purpose. Think of warfare, that crucible of human ingenuity and barbarity. The successful commander is not merely a skilled tactician. He is also a master psychologist, capable of anticipating his enemy's moves, exploiting their weaknesses, and manipulating their perceptions. He understands the importance of morale, the power of propaganda, and the subtle art of deception. He knows that victory is not always achieved on the battlefield, but often in the minds of his opponents. Sun Tzu, in his timeless treatise, The Art of War, emphasize the importance of knowing your enemy and knowing yourself. This self-awareness, this understanding of one's own strengths and limitations, is crucial for making sound decisions under pressure. A leader who is blinded by ego, who overestimates his own abilities, is destined to fail. But a leader who possesses a clear-eyed understanding of reality, who is willing to learn from his mistakes, and who can adapt to changing circumstances, has a far greater chance of success. The battlefield is a theater of shadows, a place where deception and misdirection reign supreme. The master strategist is the one who can navigate this treacherous landscape, who can see through the illusions, and who can exploit the vulnerabilities of his opponents. Moreover, the aftermath of conflict reveals further dimensions of mastery. A victor who seeks only retribution and subjugation sows the seeds of future rebellion. True mastery lies in the ability to forge a lasting peace, to rebuild what has been destroyed, and to create a society that is both just and prosperous. This requires not only military prowess, but also diplomatic skill, economic acumen, and a deep understanding of human nature. The Marshall Plan, implemented after World War II, stands as a testament to the power of enlightened self-interest. By investing in the reconstruction of Europe, the United States not only helped to prevent the spread of communism, but also created a powerful trading partner and a more stable world order. This was not merely an act of charity, but a strategic calculation, a recognition that lasting security depends on the well-being of others. The shadows of history are filled with examples of empires that collapsed because they failed to learn this lesson, because they pursued short-term gains at the expense of long-term stability. The true master understands that power is not an end in itself, but a means to an end, and that the ultimate goal is not domination, but cooperation. Examine the life of Abraham Lincoln, a man who guided the United States through its most perilous crisis. Lincoln was a master of rhetoric, able to articulate a vision of national unity that resonated with people across the political spectrum. He was also a shrewd politician, capable of building coalitions and navigating the treacherous waters of Washington. But above all, Lincoln was a man of profound moral conviction, committed to the principles of justice and equality. He understood that the Civil War was not just about preserving the Union, but also about ending slavery, about realizing the promise of the Declaration of Independence. Lincoln's leadership was not always popular, and he faced fierce opposition from both sides of the political divide. But he remained steadfast in his commitment to his principles, and he ultimately succeeded in saving the Union and abolishing slavery. Lincoln's legacy is a testament to the power of moral leadership, to the importance of standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult or unpopular. He understood that true mastery is not about personal ambition, but about serving a higher purpose, about leaving the world a better place than he found it. Therefore, the path to mastery is not a simple one. It requires a deep understanding of oneself, a clear-eyed assessment of the world, and an unwavering commitment to ethical conduct. It demands the ability to navigate the shadows, to make difficult decisions under pressure, and to inspire others to follow your lead. It is a journey that is fraught with challenges and setbacks, but it is also a journey that is ultimately rewarding. For in mastering the shadows, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us, and we unlock the potential to create a more just and prosperous future for all. True mastery is not about control, but about influence. It's not about domination, but about service. It's not about seeking personal gain, but about contributing to something greater than ourselves. It is a path that requires humility, courage, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. And it is a path that leads to a life of purpose, meaning, and lasting significance. The allure of shadows lies in their capacity to conceal and distort, a reflection of the human psyche's own hidden depths. To master oneself, one must first confront the uncomfortable truths residing within, the impulses and desires that society often deems unacceptable. These are not to be indulged without caution, but understood, mapped, and integrated into a holistic awareness. Imagine a general surveying a battlefield at night, the terrain obscured by darkness. He cannot afford to ignore the shadows. Instead, he must use all available means, moonlight, starlight, the faint glow of distant fires, to discern the landscape, anticipate enemy movements, and formulate a plan of attack. Similarly, the individual seeking mastery must develop the capacity to perceive the subtleties of human behavior, to read between the lines, and to anticipate the consequences of actions. This requires a keen understanding of psychology, a willingness to observe and analyze, and the ability to remain objective even when confronted with emotionally charged situations. The capacity for deception, for instance, is a tool often wielded by those seeking power, and the master strategist must be adept at both detecting and employing it with calculated precision. Not as a matter of malice, but as a means of navigating a world where not all players adhere to principles of fairness or transparency. Think of a diplomat negotiating a treaty with a hostile nation. They may need to employ subtle tactics of persuasion, to offer concessions that appear generous while safeguarding their own nation's interests. This is not necessarily an act of dishonesty, but a necessary component of achieving a desired outcome in a complex and adversarial environment. The true master understands the moral ambiguity inherent in many situations and is capable of making difficult choices with a clear conscience, knowing that the ends may sometimes justify the means, provided those ends are aligned with a higher purpose. Furthermore, mastering the shadows entails cultivating a degree of emotional detachment. The ability to remain calm and focused under pressure, to resist the temptation to react impulsively, is essential for clear thinking and effective decision-making. Imagine a surgeon performing a delicate operation, their hands steady and their mind focused despite the life-or-death stakes. They cannot afford to be distracted by fear or anxiety. They must rely on their training, their experience, and their unwavering commitment to the patient's well-being. Similarly, the individual seeking mastery must cultivate a similar level of emotional resilience, a capacity to remain grounded in the face of adversity, and to make rational decisions even when overwhelmed by emotions. This is not to suggest that emotions should be suppressed or ignored, but rather that they should be understood and managed, channeled into constructive action rather than destructive impulses. A chess grandmaster, for example, anticipates their opponent's move several steps ahead, calmly calculating the consequences of each possible action without succumbing to frustration or impatience. This strategic foresight is a direct result of their mastery over their own emotions. The ability to step back from a situation, to observe it from a detached perspective, allows for a more objective assessment of the risks and rewards involved. This is particularly crucial in situations where one is confronted with ethical dilemmas, where the right course of action may not be immediately apparent. The master strategist cultivates the ability to see beyond the immediate consequences of an action, to consider its long-term impact on themselves, on others, and on the world at large. This requires a profound sense of responsibility, a recognition that one's actions have far-reaching consequences. It also demands a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge one's own limitations and biases, and to continually strive for self-improvement. Moreover, the mastery of shadows also involves understanding the power of perception. How others perceive you and how you perceive them plays a crucial role in shaping interactions and outcomes. Those who can control the narrative, who can frame events in a way that favors their own interests, often wield a significant advantage. This does not necessarily mean manipulating or deceiving others, but rather presenting oneself in a way that inspires trust, confidence, and respect. Think of a lawyer presenting a case to a jury. They carefully craft their arguments, selecting evidence and witnesses that support their client's position while downplaying or discrediting opposing arguments. They understand that the jury's perception of the case will ultimately determine the verdict, and they strive to shape that perception in a way that favors their client. The master of shadows understands the power of symbolism, the ability of images and words to evoke emotions and shape beliefs. They use this knowledge to communicate effectively, to inspire others, and to build alliances. They also understand the importance of discretion, the ability to keep secrets and to protect confidential information. This is not simply a matter of self-preservation, but also a matter of respecting the trust that others have placed in them. The ability to maintain confidentiality is essential for building strong relationships and for fostering a climate of openness and honesty. Ultimately, the mastery of shadows is not about becoming a manipulator or a Machiavellian schemer. It is about developing a deeper understanding of human nature, a more nuanced appreciation of the complexities of the world, and a more profound commitment to ethical conduct. It is about using one's knowledge and skills to create positive change, to inspire others, and to leave the world a better place than one found it. It is a journey that requires courage, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. And it is a journey that leads to a life of purpose, meaning, and lasting significance. True mastery lies not in the absence of shadows, but in the ability to navigate them with wisdom, integrity, and compassion. Consider the case of a CEO navigating a hostile takeover. The raiders, sensing weakness, begin their assault, leaks to the press, carefully planted rumors eroding investor confidence, and quiet approaches to board members, promising them greater power in a restructured company. The conventional response would be a show of force, public denials, aggressive counter-PR, and legal threats. The Master of Shadows understands this is precisely what the aggressor anticipates, a predictable dance that plays to their strengths. Instead, our CEO chooses a different path, one of calculated ambiguity and indirect influence. He begins by appearing to concede ground. He acknowledges, in carefully worded statements, the concerns about the company's performance, even hinting at potential restructuring. This disarms the raiders, creating a sense of premature victory and lulling them into complacency. While the public face is one of measured acceptance, behind the scenes, a different game is being played. The CEO initiates a series of discreet meetings with key institutional investors, not to beg for support, but to present a compelling long-term vision for the company, a vision that emphasizes innovation and sustainable growth. He doesn't directly attack the raiders. Instead, he subtly raises questions about their motives, their track record, and their ability to deliver on their promises. He uses data, not emotion, to paint a picture of instability and short-sightedness under their leadership. Simultaneously, he cultivates relationships with influential journalists, feeding them carefully curated information that subtly undermines the raiders' narrative. He doesn't offer bribes or make overt appeals. He simply provides them with access to data and perspectives they wouldn't otherwise have, allowing them to draw their own conclusions. He also understands the importance of internal alliances. He identifies disgruntled employees within the raiders' own organization, individuals who feel overlooked or undervalued, and offers them opportunities for advancement and recognition within his company. These individuals, motivated by self-interest, become invaluable sources of intelligence, providing him with insights into the raiders' strategies and weaknesses. Throughout this process, the CEO maintains an aura of calm and detachment. He doesn't react impulsively or engage in public squabbles. He remains focused on his long-term goals, patiently maneuvering his pieces on the chessboard. As the takeover attempt reaches its climax, the raiders find themselves facing unexpected resistance. Key investors withdraw their support, citing concerns about the raiders' long-term vision. The media begins to question their motives and their ability to deliver on their promises. An internal dissent within their own organization undermines their ability to execute their strategy. Ultimately, the takeover attempt fails. The raiders, outmaneuvered and demoralized, are forced to retreat. The CEO has successfully defended his company, not through brute force, but through a masterful application of strategic thinking, subtle influence, and calculated deception. He understood that the battle was not about winning a public relations war, but about shaping perceptions and influencing decisions behind the scenes. He embraced the shadows, not as a source of darkness, but as a source of power. He did not lie. He simply controlled what truths were exposed and when. This requires patience, a keen understanding of human nature, and an unwavering commitment to achieving one's objectives, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. This is the power of mastery through shadows. Mastery through shadows is not about embracing evil, but about understanding the full spectrum of human behavior. It is about recognizing that people are often driven by emotions, biases, and hidden agendas, and that these factors can be exploited to achieve one's goals. A man who understands how fear, greed, and vanity operate is better equipped to navigate the complexities of human interaction. He can anticipate the moves of his opponents, influence their decisions, and protect himself from manipulation. This is not about becoming a puppeteer, controlling others against their will. It is about understanding the strings that already exist and using that knowledge to guide events in a desired direction. Consider the artist who uses shadows to create depth and dimension in his work. He does not eliminate the light, but he understands how to manipulate it to enhance the overall impact of the piece. Similarly, the strategist uses shadows to create opportunities and to conceal his true intentions. He does not abandon morality, but he recognizes that transparency can be a liability. He chooses his moments carefully, revealing only what is necessary to achieve his objectives. He understands that information is power, and that controlling the flow of information can be a decisive advantage. The path to mastery through shadows requires a rigorous self-examination. One must confront one's own dark impulses and understand the potential for manipulation that resides within. Only by acknowledging one's own capacity for deception can one truly guard against being deceived. This is a constant process of vigilance, a relentless pursuit of self-awareness. The man who is unaware of his own flaws is vulnerable to exploitation. He becomes a pawn in the games of others, easily manipulated by those who understand his weaknesses. This mastery also demands an acute awareness of the environment. The strategist must be able to read the subtle cues that reveal the true motivations of others. He must pay attention to the unspoken words, the fleeting expressions, the hidden agendas. He must be a keen observer of human nature, constantly analyzing and interpreting the behavior of those around him. He must cultivate a sense of detachment, allowing him to see the world with clarity and objectivity. Emotions can cloud judgment and lead to costly mistakes. The strategist must remain calm and rational, even in the face of intense pressure. The application of these principles extends far beyond the realm of business and politics. It is relevant in all aspects of life, from personal relationships to creative endeavors. The man who understands the dynamics of power and influence is better equipped to navigate the complexities of human interaction. He can build stronger relationships, achieve his goals more effectively, and protect himself from harm. He becomes a master of his own destiny, shaping his own reality rather than being shaped by it. However, mastery through shadows is not without its risks. The constant manipulation of others can lead to isolation and distrust. The pursuit of power can become an all-consuming obsession, blinding one to the true values of life. It is essential to maintain a sense of perspective, to remember that power is merely a tool, not an end in itself. The ultimate goal is not to dominate others, but to create a better world for oneself and for those around us. This requires a deep understanding of ethics and a commitment to using one's power responsibly. The true master of shadows understands the limitations of his art. He recognizes that there are forces beyond his control, that fate can intervene in unexpected ways. He is not arrogant or overconfident, but humble and adaptable. He is always learning, always refining his strategies, always seeking to improve his understanding of the world. He knows that the pursuit of mastery is a lifelong journey, a constant process of self-improvement. Therefore, embrace the shadows, not as a refuge from the light, but as a source of profound understanding. Learn to decipher the hidden language of power, to anticipate the moves of your adversaries, to protect yourself from manipulation. Sharpen your mind, steel your resolve, and master the art of calculated influence. But never forget the importance of integrity and compassion. For true